Alright, so what we're doing now is called the law of cosines. I'm not going to prove it in this slideshow, but I'm just going to use the law. Recall that law of sines was only for our SSA with the multiple cases or the ASA cases. Alright, the law of cosines is going to allow us to solve the side when we don't have an angle to use for the law of sines. We can find the angles using this, or our side angle side. So for the side, let's say this is our triangle, clearly we can't use the law of sines because there's no A or B, right? We don't know what any of our angles are, so there's no way to use the law of sines because you need to know at least one of the angles. And then for the side angle side, let's say we know this, and we know this angle. Well, we don't know the opposite side, so we can't do like sine A over A or sine B over B or whatever because we don't have the opposite side. So law of cosines is for these two cases. So these are the law of sines. There's a different one for each side depending on which side and angle you're using. Okay? So notice that when it's A here, that goes with cosine of our angle. If we're looking for a side B, we got B squared and then cosine of angle B. An alternative form would be if we, so look down here, if we solve for the angle. If we're solving for the side, this is the formula we use. If we want to know the angle, then what we're going to do is add this to both sides and subtract a c squared from both sides. And that gives me 2ab cosine c, because I added that to both sides, equals a squared plus b squared minus c squared. Divide both by 2ab. And that gives me cosine of angle C is equal to a squared plus b squared minus c squared over 2ab. So notice if it's C that we're looking for, C is our angle, and C is the minus squared over here. And then it's a squared, b squared, and ab here. And similarly, you can get an alternative form for each of the other, each of the other formulas. Alright, so if we're looking for an angle, we use this. If we're looking for a side, we use this. Alright, so let's do it here. So this is our side case. So we're obviously looking for the angles. Because we're looking for the angles, we're going to want to use this second alternative form. So we're going to use one of these. I'm going to start with angle C. So if I want to find angle C, I use the alternative form. That gives me cosine of angle C equals a squared plus b squared minus c squared over 2ab. It's a good idea to just write the formula and then plug in all the numbers. So that's going to give me a cosine of C, still don't know that, equals 8 squared plus 19 squared minus 14 squared over 2 times 8 times 19. So to plug that into your calculator, to do it right, what I would recommend is just crunching the top first and then dividing by. Now you need to put this in parentheses. This has to be in parentheses in your calculator. Alright, because otherwise what's going to happen is you're going to divide by 2, then multiply that answer by an 8 and a 9, or a 19. You don't want to do that. You want to divide the whole thing by this whole quantity. So what we're going to do is divide by parentheses 2 times 8 times 19. Alright, and that gives us this. So now what we want to do is, that's what cosine of C equals. Cosine of C equals this. So in order to find the angle C, we need to do the inverse cosine. So I'm going to do the inverse sine of both sides, or inverse cosine. Cosine inverse. And then I'm going to leave this value exactly in my calculator so I get the most precise answer possible. So second cosine does the inverse, and I hit the second, this ants key, or the negative key down here, and that's going to use my previous answer. And that gives me the most precise answer I can get out of this machine. So now, here we go. this is our final answer for the cosine. Alright, so we found angle C already. We want to find angle B, I believe, or I'm going to do angle A now. So we're looking for angle A. The alternative form, we're trying to solve for the angle. So that's going to be cosine of A equals B squared. So that's 19 squared plus C squared is plus 14 squared minus 8 squared over 2 times 19 times 14. And again, the proper way to enter that into your calculator is this. So pause it and look at that if you need to. And then there we go. So feel free to pause the recording and check out any of these answers that you are trying to. If I go too fast or anything, feel free to do that. So then this is our final answer. This is 26 degrees. Angle A is 26.53 degrees. And then finally, angle C, or B rather, is going to be cosine of B equals 8 squared plus 14 squared minus 19 squared over 2 times 8 times 14. And in the calculator, that gives this. So top got cut off a little bit, but it's the same calculation I was doing before. So it gives us 116 degrees. So we've 116.8. So we found all of them. So now let's look at what if it's one of these side angle side ones. What we're going to do is solve for the angle first, because otherwise we'd need one of the angle measures. I mean, solve for this side first. Otherwise, we don't have the angle B or angle C to use for our formula. So what we're going to do is the A squared equals, my bad, we're going to do the A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cosine A. So we have all the information for that except for A, the side length A. So we're good to go. 15 squared plus 10 squared minus 2 times 15 times 10, and this is just plugging and chugging now, times cosine of 115 degrees. Alright, now if we plug that into our calculators, that's going to give us this, and then that's going to be, oh, that wasn't it. So anytime you want to, I don't want to type all this in again, I'm just going to type second enter, and that recalls the last thing I did. I got to do this times cosine of my angle. I almost forgot. So, and make sure you're in degree mode when you do these as well, or you get all wrong answers. So that gives me this, which I then want, so now tells me that's the A squared. A squared equals this number here. So I need to take the square root of both sides. So A equals the square root of 451.785, blah, 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 blah. And then I'm going to just take the square root of that answer. That gives me 21.255. That's my answer right here. Okay. So A is 21.255, and I can use law of sines or cosines to do this. I'm going to actually use law of sines because it's a little quicker and easier to plug in and solve for. I'm looking for the angles, so I'm going to write it with my angle on top. Sine of A over A equals, let's do B first, sine of B over B, and that gives you sine of 115 over 21.255 equals sine of B over 15. Multiply both sides by 15. And you plug that into your equation, and you get this. Oh. So that is the sine of B. So that gives me sine of B equals this. So I got to do the sine inverse of both sides. That gives me B equals sine inverse of this number here, which equals approximately 39.76 degrees. This would be 39.76 degrees. And then similarly, we could solve for angle C, and we would have all three sides and all three angles. So that's how you do the law of cosines with the side angle side case and with the side 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 case. So what you're going to do now is try these problems. I guess now I know if you watch the whole video, because you had to get all the way to this point. Talking for a minute so you guys can copy these down, or you can just pause the video. I want you to try each of these problems. Just find angle C on this one, and just find the length of side C on this one. So it's two little problems. See you tomorrow.